The story begins at Port Helios Station, a lonely human outpost floating at the edge of known space, where people live by fixing old ships and helping refugees escape from dangerous war zones. And on this terrible day, the station wakes to chaos as the sky suddenly fills with enemy ships and burning light, because the Krax Dominion has arrived without warning, just as they always do, bringing fire, fear, and death. The Krax are huge dragon-like aliens covered in living armor, with wings folded like blades and eyes that glow with cold hunger. And they have destroyed many worlds before, leaving nothing behind except ash and silence. Sirens scream across the station as explosions rip through metal walls. Docking bays shatter and ships are torn apart while people run for their lives, holding children, calling out names, slipping on smoke and blood, knowing deep inside that help will not come because humanity has almost no fleets left in this region. In the middle of this disaster is Elias Rourke, a human mechanic who spends his days fixing broken engines and keeping old ships alive with skill and stubborn will. And when the first blast hits, he is thrown hard across the deck, tools flying, lights going dark, his ears ringing, but instead of freezing in fear, he pulls himself up and mutters that he will not die today. He knows the station well, and he knows where people will run. So he heads toward Dock 7, where refugees usually gather and where his own patched-up ship is waiting, hoping to escape before the Krax finish the slaughter. As he runs through smoke-filled corridors, dodging falling debris and flames, he hears something unexpected through the noise of battle, a deep and weak voice that sounds nothing like a human cry for help. And when he follows it, he finds something that makes his heart stop. Lying in the shadow of a broken fuel tank is a dragon, smaller than the giant war beasts attacking the station, with cracked scales, a wing burned almost to bone, and dark blood pooling beneath his body, clearly left behind to die. The dragon lowers his head, not in pride or threat, but in shame, and speaks in a soft, broken voice, politely asking if he may have leftovers, meaning food scraps, anything at all, because he is starving and too weak to hunt or fight. Elias is shocked and angry at the same time, because this creature belongs to the same race that is murdering his people only meters away, and his first instinct is to walk away or finish the dragon himself. But something stops him when he looks into the dragon's eyes. Instead of cruelty, he sees fear, loneliness, and the deep pain of someone who has been rejected by his own kind. The dragon explains that he is Krax, but was cast out for being small and weak, considered useless by his empire, and abandoned on the station like trash when the attack began. Around them, explosions continue, and the station shakes as if it might tear apart at any moment, reminding Elias that this is the worst possible time for mercy. Yet he cannot bring himself to ignore the wounded creature. He understands what it means to be left behind, because humans too have been abandoned by stronger races called weak, unimportant, and ready to be erased, and that shared feeling settles heavily in his chest. Elias tells the dragon to stay alive and promises to see what he can do, even though helping an enemy makes no sense in a war where survival feels impossible. The dragon's eyes widen in disbelief because no human has ever shown him kindness, and no Krax would ever help a failure like him. And that single moment, a simple human choice to care instead of kill, quietly changes the path of events that were rushing toward humanity's end. While the station burns and the Krax believe victory is already theirs, a mechanic kneels beside a dying dragon, not knowing that this small act of compassion will soon turn into something far greater than a repair job or a rescue, but rather the beginning of a miracle that will echo across the stars. After the first shock of meeting the wounded dragon passes, the story moves into a desperate and fast-growing struggle where survival depends on courage and hard choices. Because while the Krax Dominion believes Port Helios Station is already defeated, the humans inside refuse to accept that fate. Elias does not waste time thinking about whether helping the dragon is right or wrong, because explosions continue to tear the station apart and every second matters. So he begins working with the only tools and materials he has, dragging broken metal plates, cables, and power cells across the deck while enemy fire shakes the walls around him. He treats the dragon like a damaged ship rather than a monster, checking the burned wing, cleaning wounds, and welding human-made metal supports directly onto alien bone and scale, even though the tools were never meant for a body like this, and the smell of burning flesh fills the air. The dragon cries out in pain but never attacks or pulls away, showing trust that surprises Elias. And during these painful moments, the dragon finally speaks his name, Valith, admitting that he was born weaker than other cracks and was rejected by his own kind, trained only to serve or die until the day he was abandoned on the station as useless. As Elias works, the wider battle grows more violent, with human dock workers turning heavy cargo loaders into weapons, engineers overloading reactors to block enemy paths, and pilots launching half-repaired ships into space, choosing to fight rather than wait for death, because humans have learned through years of loss that giving up only makes extinction faster. The Crack's commanders watch this resistance with amusement at first, seeing it as the final, pointless struggle of a dying species. But their confidence slowly begins to crack as human ships refuse to break formation, crash into enemy fighters, and use clever tricks and sacrifice to punch far above their weight. When Elias finishes reinforcing Velith's wing with rough but strong welds, the dragon tests it, standing up slowly, his body shaking. And though the wing looks ugly and scarred, it holds, proving that human engineering and stubborn creativity can succeed even in impossible conditions. Valith realizes that for the first time in his life he is not treated as weak or worthless, but as something worth saving, and that feeling gives him strength beyond his injuries. While Elias sees that this dragon is not a mindless killer, but a thinking being shaped by cruelty, just as humans have been shaped by endless war. When Valith straightens and lets out a powerful roar that echoes through the station and into space, the sound carries something ancient and commanding that the Cracks cannot ignore. And enemy ships suddenly hesitate because that roar is recognized as a royal blood call, a signal only leaders of the Cracks can make. Confusion spreads through the Cracks fleet as they realize that a royal-blooded dragon is fighting on the human side, something their strict and brutal society never imagined possible. Valith launches himself into open space, guided by Elias through a shared communication link using stolen and modified Cracks technology, and together they move like one, with Elias feeding targeting data and battle plans while Valith tears through enemy fighters with fire and claw, striking with speed and purpose rather than blind rage. Human ships rally around this unexpected ally, gaining hope and courage from the sight of a dragon fighting beside them. And for the first time in the war, the Cracks begin to lose ships faster than they can replace them. The battle becomes a storm of light and destruction, with debris spinning through space, pilots shouting orders and prayers, and human vessels making daring moves that defy logic, driven by the belief that survival is still possible. Realizing that they are losing control, the Cracks commanders order their massive flagship to move forward and prepare its main weapon, a planet-killing cannon designed to wipe out entire worlds in a single blast, intending to erase Port Helios and every human on it as a warning to the rest of the galaxy. As the enormous weapon charges, its glow filling space with deadly light, Valith senses what is coming and understands that no human ship can stop it in time. And in that moment he accepts a terrible truth that his life, once considered worthless, now has a chance to protect others. He speaks calmly to Elias through the link, telling him that he must end this. And though Elias protests and knows the cost will be fatal, Valith remained steady because the kindness he was shown gave his life meaning, and he will not allow that gift to be wasted. As the flagship prepares to fire and the fate of the station hangs on a thin thread, Valith turns toward the enemy alone, carrying with him not only fire and strength, but the will of humanity that refuses to be erased. The story reaches its climax as Valith, the wounded dragon, makes the ultimate decision to face the Crack's flagship alone, knowing that the survival of Port Helios Station and humanity depends on his actions. And as he charges forward, the enormity of the moment hangs in the air, tense and almost unbearable. The Crack's flagship fires its massive weapon, a devastating blast designed to destroy the station completely. And time seems to slow as the deadly energy heads toward the fragile human outpost, yet Valith does not dodge. Instead, he opens himself fully, exposing his mind, body, and royal energy in a way that no Cracks or human has ever seen, unleashing a surge of raw power born from both his alien heritage and the human care that saved him, creating an unstoppable force aimed directly at the enemy. Elias, watching from the half-destroyed control room, feels every pulse of energy through the communication link they share, sensing pain, pride, and determination all at once. Realizing that this act is more than a fight, it is a miracle built from trust, courage, and the bond formed between human and dragon. The flagship explodes in a blinding white light, shattering into pieces, and the shockwave ripples through the Crack's fleet, tearing apart enemy ships, sending commanders and soldiers into panic, and leaving the remaining forces disorganized and leaderless, unable to recover from the sudden loss of their flagship and the unexpected display of power from the supposedly weak dragon. Port Helios, battered and smoking, drifts in silence among the wreckage of space, but it is alive, and the humans, who moments ago thought death was certain, begin to cheer, cry, and embrace one another in a mixture of relief and disbelief, knowing that their courage and ingenuity, combined with the miraculous intervention of Valith, saved them from total annihilation. Valith, however, is gone, vanished in the light of the explosion, leaving behind only the memory of his sacrifice, the echo of his roar, and the undeniable fact that he changed the course of the battle, proving that even those cast out as weak or worthless can make a difference when shown trust and care. In the weeks and months that follow, humanity learns the full impact of Valith's actions, as the signal of his royal energy spreads through Crack space, causing disruption within their rigid empire, making some dragons question their leaders, prompting others to rebel, and inspiring a small but growing faction to seek alliances with humans, realizing that the galaxy is not solely ruled by strength or fear, but also by choice and honor. Humanity begins to rebuild Port Helios and other frontier stations with renewed determination, not simply as survivors but as a rising force that will not be ignored, learning from the ingenuity, bravery, and sacrifice of both humans and their unlikely dragon ally, showing that cooperation and courage can overcome even the most powerful enemies. On Earth, a monument is created to honor the moment that changed history. A structure of steel and fire shaped to show a human mechanic kneeling before a dragon, simple yet powerful, symbolizing compassion, resilience, and the impact of small acts in the face of overwhelming odds, and at its base, the words remind every human who sees it that sometimes giving a little of yourself can save the universe. The story closes on the enduring legacy of that day, as humans, now aware of the vast and dangerous galaxy, continue to fight, explore, and survive, strengthened by the lesson that their ingenuity, courage, and refusal to surrender can inspire miracles, and that no matter how weak or abandoned someone might seem, the bond between species, built on trust and kindness, can change the course of history. Across the stars, the memory of Valith and the human mechanic Elias becomes a symbol of what humanity can achieve when it refuses to break, refuses to yield, and refuses to accept the impossible, leaving the galaxy forever changed, with humans no longer just survivors but a force capable of turning the tide, winning against overwhelming odds and proving that life, courage, and compassion are more powerful than fear, weapons, or empire. The ultimate message resonates across the frontier. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not flee. Humans find solutions. And humans leave a mark so deep that even alien empires must respect their presence, forever remembering the miracle that began with a small act, a simple question about leftovers, and a single look that changed everything.